When a mother's final attempt to reach her daughter is a call that goes unanswered, who is to blame? In a stunning congressional hearing, the brutal murder of Laken Riley becomes the centerpiece of a searing indictment against New York's sanctuary policies. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, in a raw and emotional confrontation, forces Governor Kathy Hochul to face the human cost of political decisions. But just as the weight of this personal tragedy settles, the hearing takes a shocking turn. Another lawmaker, Representative Paulina Luna, pivots the entire conversation, alleging that the chaos on America's streets isn't just about immigration, but is a meticulously orchestrated plot funded by Chinese billionaires and communist sympathizers. Is this a simple case of failed domestic policy, or are we witnessing the strings of a global puppet master at play?
And because of your state's policies of paying for flights of illegal aliens, we ended up with Jose Ibarra in our state of Georgia. And, you know, I'm a mother of 3 children, and two out of my 3, I have 2 daughters. And you're a mother, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes, and I think you've got 2 children, you have 1 daughter, is that right?
That is correct.
And so you and I are both mothers, and there's one mother that I wish could be here today and could talk to you instead of me, and that's Allison Phillips. That's Laken Riley's mother. And we talked about Laken a few minutes ago, and you know, there's a really special bond between mothers and daughters. And we speak with our daughters daily. We speak with our daughters all day long. We speak with our daughters about every single thing that's happening in our lives and every single thing that's happening in their lives. And I want you to know the last time that Laken Riley and her mother, Allison Phillips, tried to talk to each other, and that happened to be in the morning when Laken was getting ready to go out and go for her morning jog. And on the morning of her murder, at 8:55 a.m., Riley texted her mother and said, "Good morning, about to go for a run, if you're free to talk." And I can tell you that's something I do with my girls, and they text me, and I'm sure you and your daughter text each other as well. But she didn't get her mother, and then Riley called her mother just a few minutes later at 9:03 a.m. as she was starting to listen to music, but she didn't get her mom on the phone. And the trail cam actually captured her going out for her run at 9:05 a.m. At 9:11, Laken called 911. This was just not but a few minutes after she had tried to call her mother. And then at 9:24, Laken received a call from her mother, but it went unanswered. And at 9:28, Laken's heart stopped. And according to the smartwatch, the data of her smartwatch, Laken fought for her life for 17 minutes. 17 minutes. 17 minutes, this little girl fought for her life as she was being beat in the head by this monster, as she was being strangled by this monster, as she was being almost raped by this monster and drug off into the woods. She fought for her life for 17 minutes, and her mom tried to call during that time. And it was only a few minutes after she had tried to call her mother. And I think as mothers, not politicians, this is something that we should easily share with Allison Phillips. So when we are talking about the laws in place and the policies that we uphold as elected leaders in this country, do you know who we should be thinking about? We should be thinking about our daughters. And the fact that, look, everybody can fight all day long, Democrat, Republican. I gotta tell you though, it's so much bullshit when it comes down to the fact that this little girl fought for 17 minutes of the end of her 22-year-old life. The end of her 22-year-old life. And Governor Hochul, for the love of God, as you are a proud, registered Democrat, I don't know how on earth you can uphold laws that protect and give aid and comfort to monsters, especially one that was arrested in your state and let go because of your policies in your state. And I can't comprehend it, Mr. Chairman. Just one more second. Laken Riley and her mother deserve to have one last chat. Like, you know what? Me and you get to have chats with our daughters. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Yield back. They've called votes. We're going to try to get two more questions in. I'll recognize Mr. Davis from Illinois and then Ms. Luna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you and the ranking member for letting me wave on to this hearing. I want to thank all of the witnesses,
What we witnessed in that hearing room was far more than a simple policy debate. It was a masterclass in political theater, executed through two distinct but devastatingly effective strategies. The session was cleaved into two acts, each with its own protagonist, villain, and method of attack. In the first act, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene weaponized personal grief. Her target was Governor Kathy Hochul, and her ammunition was the heart-wrenching minute-by-minute timeline of Laken Riley's final moments. The number she cited: the 8:55 a.m. text, the 9:11 a.m. call to emergency services, the 17 minutes of struggle recorded by a smartwatch, were not presented as mere data points. They were transformed into a narrative of profound human suffering. Greene's strategy was to bypass abstract arguments about sanctuary city laws and instead place the blame for a daughter's horrific death directly at the feet of a fellow mother. By repeatedly invoking their shared status as mothers, she framed the issue not as a disagreement between a Republican and a Democrat, but as a moral failing of one mother who, in Greene's telling, chose political ideology over the safety of another's child. This is a tactic of pure pathos, designed to make any defensive policy seem cold, bureaucratic, and inhumane in the face of raw tragedy. Then, just as the emotional weight of Greene's testimony saturated the room, the second act began with Representative Paulina Luna. Her approach was entirely different, shifting from the visceral to the conspiratorial. The focus pivoted from a single, tragic failure of domestic policy to an elaborate international plot. Luna's target was Governor Tim Walz, but her true villain was a vast, shadowy network allegedly controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Her tactic was a rhetorical blitzkrieg. In rapid succession, she unleashed a torrent of names and accusations: the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the billionaire activist Neville Singham living in Shanghai, a $5 million earmark connected to the Wuhan Institute, and even a supposed Department of Homeland Security memo identifying Governor Walz as a prime target for influence operation. This strategy, often called a Gish Gallop, is not designed to win a debate point by point. It is designed to overwhelm. By flooding the zone with accusations, it forces the target into a defensive posture, making them appear guilty or evasive whether they confirm, deny, or simply express confusion. Luna wasn't just questioning Walz's judgment. She was painting him as, at best, a naive pawn and, at worst, a willing participant in a foreign campaign to destabilize America. She connected these supposedly pro-Maoist groups to other bogeymen of the right, like George Soros, weaving a grand narrative where protests over immigration are not genuine expressions of dissent, but a ruse orchestrated by America's greatest geopolitical rival. The responses from the accused governors are just as revealing. Governor Hochul remained largely a silent recipient of Greene's emotional tirade. Governor Walz, faced with Luna's barrage, could only offer a non-committal "I can't confirm that right now" when asked about speaking at a rally, a response that, in the theater of the hearing, could easily be interpreted as evasive. The only strong counter-narrative came from Governor Pritzker, who defended the progressive governance of his state as humane and focused on caring for the vulnerable. This served as a brief ideological rebuttal, an attempt to reframe progressive policies as a source of strength and compassion, directly opposing the portrait of chaos and danger painted by his Republican colleagues. So, to answer our opening question, is this a story of failed policy or a global puppet master? The hearing presents both. Greene's narrative insists that a specific, tangible policy, New York's sanctuary law created the conditions for a monster to kill. Luna's narrative argues that the entire political landscape is a stage, and the actors are being manipulated by foreign powers. But the ultimate truth may lie not in either accusation, but in the nature of the hearing itself. This was not an exercise in fact-finding. It was a performance designed to generate viral clips and fuel a political base. It was the conversion of personal tragedy and geopolitical anxiety into potent political weapons, demonstrating that in the arena of modern politics, the most compelling story, whether of a mother's grief or a vast conspiracy, often vanquishes the complicated truth. What do you think about the tactics used in this hearing? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis.